I presume that if in school you learned anything about the Opium Wars, you probably learned about the Boxer Rebellion. There came a point where the Chinese society as a whole, as an empire, just could not stomach anymore this permanent liberties being taken by Western governments. And yet the general populace of China couldn't distinguish between missionaries who were not commissioned by a government, but went out of their own free will and their own desire to bring Christ's gospel, and the governments that were just simply pillaging and destroying cities and taking resources as their own. And this sparked an underground movement called the Boxer Rebellion. Of course, it was within a very short space of time put down by a coalition of troops, American, French, British, and so on and so forth. But in that time, hundreds of Westerners were slaughtered as a small movement. And they were called the Boxers because the Chinese believed, not all of them, but a large portion believed in the deep superstition of their martial art. They believed that the reason the Westerners came with their carbon rifles and their guns and were so successful was because the Chinese had given up faith in their ancient martial arts. There's grisly stories of these Boxer Rebellion martial artists who tried to take on, particularly American army, by standing next to trees, believing they were absorbing the strength of a tree. Like you shoot a tree, it doesn't fall down, it doesn't appear to die. And so these Boxers were gunned down. It was a horrific slaughter. It was just abject horror. But in that time that the movement was building, they didn't differentiate. They didn't differentiate between missionaries who were servants of Christ, and they slaughtered hundreds of them. Many of them went home to be with the Lord, now donned with the glory of a martyr's crown. And among the China inland missionary corps that Hudson Taylor was leading were many of his missionaries who were killed for Christ.